Andy, can you do roll call? Here.
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 Mr. Evans,
Here.
Mr. Edwards, Ms. McGowan, Mr. Locker,
Here.
Mr. Neese.
Here.
Okay, we'll start with a moment of silence and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any comments on the agenda or keep going?
Keep going.
So first up, we have the June minutes, June 26th. Any comments or a motion?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor of approving the June minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. Next up, we have the July minutes. Same, any comments or motions?
I'll move to approve the minutes of July the 24th, 2025.
A second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the July minutes, say aye. Aye, opposed? July minutes are approved. And we'll switch around our agenda a little bit. We'll do the historic preservation properties. 7 of them. But I think what we want to do is we'll have one vote. Do you want to just kind of give us the summary, including, indicating that if the owners have approved it or not, just so that we have that on the record, please?
There's 7 properties. All are owner applications. Should makes it much easier. I'll start with an order. They all obviously meet the criteria. I don't want to go through each reading of each criteria. They meet more than 2 or 3, at most of them 4 or 5 criteria. They've all been approved, I believe, by the Delaware County Planning Commission. That paperwork was in there as well. And you probably have information on each of them, of the properties.
Any of them particularly interesting or a good story or something you think you'd like to share?
Oh, well, to us, they all have a good story.
Well, now you have to pick which one you love most.
Well, I can't do that. There's so many. This is probably the 20th of maybe 100 that we have. So, interesting stories. I would say the Sears Kit House, which would be the Hathaway house, is on Media Line Road. Built in 1929, and just to preface, with our ordinance, it's 75 years. So any home at this point that meets the criteria for one of the reasons built in 1950 or over is actually eligible at this point. So the Hathaway house built on Media Line Road. We were able to locate grandson of the builder, who actually ordered the kit on the Sears catalog, the pictures in there, and had it delivered on the freight train that came to Powell Lumberyard. If you were born and raised here, you would know Powell Lumberyard was on Winding Way, where the freight station ended. So he had the kit delivered there, and then a flatbed truck took it to Media Line, and he built it himself. And it looks exactly, except with a small addition on the back, as it did. Sears Kit homes are throughout the country are becoming listed in historic because they're clustered. So this would be the neighborhood next to the senior high school, where there are several Sears Kit homes. Usually they're identifiable by a beam in the attic that they carved in numbers, or they carved in a Sears logo that you have to get the homeowner to go up and look. This homeowner was particularly fond of her home, and since we also knew the builder, she was very open to letting everyone come in.
Which one is the oldest?
Hmm.
Which one is the oldest?
The oldest, I believe, is between the Grimm and the Gradyville, I believe John Grimm House, 1735, if you're familiar with that on Gradyville Road. Another road that has several historic homes. And if you're familiar, that has the good story of Alice Grimm. If you, again, grew up here, the Stratford Friends School was the Alice Grimm Elementary School, which was the public school, Newtown Public School. But it was named for Alice Grimm, who was the daughter of the Grimms, who originally bought the home. She was the principal, and then when she retired in the 50s, they named the school after her, Alice Grimm Elementary School. She and her sister lived there for quite a long time. Then she moved to a home that was quite historic on Westchester Pike that was torn down probably 12 years ago. But she has a very long history with the township. So that, and then the house probably that is on Gradyville Road at 3840, which actually sits on a small inlet of the reservoir. That is known as the Philip Dunn House. And that property was 1743, the original piece, and then there were several additions in the 1800s. And it's sandwiched between, I believe, where the current developments are going, at the reservoir off of Gradyville Road. She's the access road down. So if you turn down, you go right to their home. And there's several, it's a little complex. She has a home for her parents there as well. And that's a beautiful, beautiful property. She used to have sheep and chickens running on it, and then a gorgeous view of the reservoir inlet when you're trees, the leaves have dropped. So I'd say that they were probably, the one you would recognize would probably be on Goshen Road, Haysham House. 3523 across from Culbertson, sits back. It's a white 2.5 story. The interesting part of that, they had an addition put on by a historic preservation company, and they did a beautiful job, and they have a gorgeous addition that fits the home really nicely. And that's off to the side and back. And one of the owners prior, I would say back when our families were in their 40s and 50s, was the Hepburns. And it was a cousin of Katharine Hepburn. And the phone operators used to listen in when she would call. It was her cousin, the gentleman that lived there, and they could always recognize her voice. So that was like some big gossip in the town when she would call there. So that was a piece on that one. And I'm trying to think if there was any others that were. The Courtney House is, again, the Courtney House is back off Media Line Road next to the high school, another pocket where there's a eclectic mix of older homes that were built post World War II. Before World War II, they were cottages. Many homes back there were summer cottages for the people in Philadelphia. The Courtney House was a very old home that owned most of that land as a farm, surrounding and including where the high school is today. And which other ones? I think. Get them confused. Oh, did I forget one? Oh, Newtown Street Road, the Wyola Tenant House. You probably pass it all the time when you go straight on 252 and 252 turns to the left. There's the Wheelwright House. You see a big wheel on the stone facade of the home. That was a Wheelwright, and that was the original Wheelwright building for the town of Wyola, which was in the 1700s. So that little intersection there with the school across the street, which is on the property of Episcopal, that was the public school #1. And then the tenant house underwent a lot of changes. It was a home for the shopkeeper. There was a store there. And then in the years when Lissitor and the DuPonts owned that property, the horse and stable workers would rent that home. So a lot of the farmhouses that you see that are more conservative and smaller were homes for many of the servants or the workers on the expensive estates that are down that end of Newtown Square and the large wealthy estates. including our paper mill house. So that is how a lot of those evolved, and they weren't all homes. Did you want to know anything else? Do you have any questions about any of them in particular?
Questions, anyone? Want to make a motion if no question?
Make a motion to approve?
Yep.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for the work.
Now switching up, we have the draft fence ordinance. Can you give us a little history?
History, I'm gonna let Andy kind of talk us through it. We originally were looking at rewriting the zoning as a whole, as part of the comp plans piece. As we got into it, it was pretty involved, and so we came back and said, let's take at least some bite at some of the apples that are smaller and easier to get a hold of. And so we thought the fence ordinance would be one of those. It's actually been a little bit more difficult than we thought. And so we've been back, I think, with a draft before you once or twice when some of you weren't even on this commission. But over the last year, we've been really trying to get this something that we think could go forward. And with some really good recommendations, and there might be some things that you would want to recommend, some changes that would go before the board, but I think these are, I think these make sense in staying with the nature and the of who we are as the township. And so I'm going to let Andy kind of walk you through the actual changes that are here. I encourage you to think about this in light of, I think we were trying to address a couple things, and you'll see that as we go through. One is we are before zoning regularly for front yard issues, and so this would help address the front yard issues. The second piece, Andy and I've talked about under the current ordinance, if somebody wanted to build a 15-foot high fence, I think they could. And so we kind of, I think, bring some structure to that as we go forward so that it's quite not quite so open, but we think it's still viable for where we're headed. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy and let him walk through. If there's anything that he wants me to refer to, I will, or whatever, but we'll just kind of help walk through this with you.
Well, I think Stephen did a great job at giving you a broad overview. The primary reason and driving factor in this was the fact that we were having so many zoning cases because residents of the township, many of them want fences located in their front yard, and the current ordinance does not allow for that. So they were always generally having to file zoning petition applications, variances, special exceptions in some cases in order to get that approved. It wasn't a by right approval. And what we were seeing is in most cases, if not all, they were approved. So it became an issue of really responsibility to the residents, to try to address something in a way that was addressing most needs, right? And to allow people to do that. In addition to that, we did add more structure. So we added clearer definitions. We are, in regard to the front yard fences, we are allowing them by right under this draft, but only under certain conditions, using certain types of material, obviously preventing stockade type fence where it would be a full enclosure, limiting those fence heights in front yards to 48 inches. We added a lot more dimensional requirements to front yard fences as well as walls, side and rear yard fences, and driveway pillars and things like that. That's the broad overview. The biggest change to the current ordinance are providing dimensional requirements and the allowance for front yard fences, whether or not they're on a corner lot or not, with limitations.
Is, principal arterial road a defined term?
I'm sorry.
Principal arterial road, it's, A little H. BII.
I don't know that we have that defined in zoning, but in another matter before the,
It feels like it should be.
well, it's kind of interesting you bring that up because recently during another hearing, zoning hearing, we found that there is a statement at the end of our zoning definitions that incorporate all of the definitions that we have adopted under our subdivision land development ordinance. And I believe that the street definitions, what they are, primary arterial road, collector road, I think that those definitions are there. So because of that clause in our zoning code that adopts all of the definitions in subdivision land development, I think we have that covered.
I think we should more than, but, because you're
In,
giving those properties that front on that, I'll call it a principal arterial road, they have the right to ask for a special exception, so it
correct.
should be a clearly, you are or you are not.
It is defined, and that's why it's listed here as defined in the township's comprehensive plan. And it is defined in the comprehensive plan.
And is that,
Yeah,
can that, and that can govern
It-
zoning?
it says it in C1A8. For front yards,
Yeah,
for front yards that front on the principal arterial road as defined in the township's comprehensive plan.
And does the comprehensive plan a legal document in terms of comparison to a zoning code?
Well, I think you can reference it as, I mean, it's clearly adopted by the township. Now it's gonna change soon, but it's,
yeah, and I think that was the purpose, was if it's tied into that 10-year plan, if that plan changed, that you wouldn't be changing your definition every time. You wouldn't have to go in and change your definition in your zoning every time if it was tied to the definition. I think that my understanding in particular with the issues of definition is, as I had the conversation with Rich, as long as it's clear where we're using the definition and how we're getting there, that's the key. It's not necessarily setting the law, so to speak. The law has to do with how we allow the front yard fence on those streets. Not necessarily how we define what a principal arterial road is. If that makes, I'm not sure I'm making sense in how I said that, but it was how it was explained to me. The key was to make sure that the definition was consistent in all of the places that we're using it.
I think another consideration with driveway pillars. Okay, driveway pillars, the proposed ordinance restricts the size, absolutely. I think that I would suggest that if someone wants to have a 30-inch wide driveway pillar, they'd be allowed to seek that by special exception. Much like something else, so that you have a
Versus
standard
a
that
variance.
is approved versus a variance, yes. So if they wanted to do a 30 by 30 pillar that's 6 feet high, and we have some homes that have large expanses. I mean, we've approved a number of acre plus property, acre and a half plus property. They have the room to even have a wider pillar should they want.
I think that's fair recommendation by all means. A lot of the dimensions that we put in here are obviously up for discussion.
Yeah. So I think if you want to, what you want to do is you want to avoid having to come every time. You want to
Right.
have, an approved one.
Right.
But if it's something out of the ordinary, the applicant should at least have the opportunity to ask.
Yeah.
Rather than be precluded.
Yeah, and special exception makes sense versus the variance because it really is no hardship.
Correct.
And you may want to allow 4 for a circular drive. Or a few around.
Or
I mean, it's a small enough universe. 2 per driveway entrance.
that makes sense. I mean, we're here for your recommendations. That's what we want to hear.
I'd be cautious also to use the words best appearance. Because I mean, I always think I look good, but then, you know,
No.
I don't know. Best appearance is very, very subjective to the
Right.
person. I get you know, you want the best part of the fence looking out.
Right.
But
We
sometimes
could
that's
use
hard
the
to say.
term, the structural components should face inward. Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it does that a few places.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good luck.
got it.
But I mean, I think you have, well, the nice side of the fence has to face out, you know, it's a challenge. But you don't wanna have a standard in an ordinance that says, that's very subjective.
Right, I agree.
How close can someone put a pickleball court, tennis court, or basketball court to their property line?
Is it 15 feet?
No, that's where the fence can be. I wonder how close they can put the actual athletic component.
Yeah, where we,
Number 2D. Court enclosures. In other words, if you could put your pickleball court 10 feet from the property line. I'm just trying to make sure we're,
Wait, are you saying, is it from the fence line or is it
Yeah,
from the
I-
property
I'm
line?
just-
Once you put the fence in it?
well, if you're left,
15.
you know, shall not be within
We're saying
15
that
feet, but what
all
if you
we're
put
saying
your
is the
pickleball
fence
court
is
within 10? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't have a fence on the one side of it? I'm just
Yeah.
trying to make sure that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
some
yeah.
sense.
I
John,
think right now we allow the court to be within 5 feet.
Well, we allow accessory structures to be within.
And isn't the court considered an accessory structure?
Yeah,
So, yeah, Andy and I are just conferring. I think we would consider the court an accessory structure. And so and our current ordinance now allows an accessory structure within 5 feet. However, if you were gonna put a fence around it, you would be forced to take it, and move it 15 feet from the property line,
Or not fence the one
or
side.
not fence the one side.
I think part of the
That-
problem is we're, here again, we're we're taking small bites of the apple, right? So this ordinance is addressing fences, which is separate and apart from accessory structures. So I don't know that we considered the fact that our courts are not identified here, but elsewhere in the code.
Yeah.
So the next step, I think the point of putting them 15 feet from the property line was due to the height of the fence that we were allowing. And whatever noise or lighting issues you may have with the court would not be so offensive to your neighbor. So we moved it inward to try to avoid that.
makes sense.
But I think that, I mean, but the point is that we would have to address courts more quickly to coincide with what we've written in regard to fences around courts.
And are we not allowing a chain link around courts?
No, it's not, doesn't say that.
I'm just
Would
checking.
that be viewed as part
That's
of?
the usual.
Does not say that.
Or would a fence of the court be viewed as an accessory structure, part of that?
Part of the
component,
accessory
like,
structure.
Part of the accessory structure, and we're viewing the fence as perimeter of the property, right?
Right.
This, the pickleball court or whatever, fence specifically enclosing that be considered part of that accessory structure and be exempt. from
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, I think that that's what we're saying. There's a crossover here that we're not addressing in two separate ordinances or under this one. We would have to address, since we're identifying the fence portion of that accessory structure here, we would have to make sure we were consistent when we
Yeah.
address the accessory structure ordinance that is pending. I mean, I have a pending draft before township solicitor for accessory structures.
So they can't put a chain link fence on their property
In the front.
in the
What?
front.
In the front yard.
Yeah,
Only.
I know we prohibited it in a front yard.
Right. So in this location where you might have a pickleball court or whatever you have, which could be 5 feet or 10, but
Well, if they want to put an 8-foot fence, they have to be at least 15 feet.
what about a 6-foot fence?
Well, that's
By right.
by right, and you could go right up to the edge of the property on that.
So a 7-foot fence, a 7.5-foot fence. are
They-
all-
Well, we've
They
said,
would need a variance.
But the 6 is okay,
but the 6 is okay.
and that's what's in our code?
That's what this is, that's
Will not
what,
exceed 6 feet.
yes.
Currently, we have no height requirements for fences in our residential district. There's no specific height. Therefore, we added height criteria in this ordinance to try to provide some
Structure.
measure of reason. So we allowed a 4-foot fence in the front yard that maintained a 1-to-1 open space to structural member ratio to make it not stockade, right? And then inside rear yards, we said allowable by right is 6 feet, and you can have stockade. But then we went on to say, if you were having a fence that enclosed a court, you could go higher, but then it had to be 15 feet off the property line.
But not a pool.
But not a well.
Well, right. A pool and pool barriers are, there's a requirement for them under the residential code. But it's a matter of enclosing the pool, the water service from access to children, basically.
Safety.
It's a safety
Yeah.
issue, by all means, yeah.
So would this commission find it offensive to make the recommendation that any chain link fence around the court should be plastic or rubber coated as opposed to just metal?
You're recommending that, we can put it.
Yeah, to be as appealing as possible.
Yes,
Yeah, I,
Well, 'cause it
makes
does,
sense.
there's no restriction in there now. You could put in a chain link fence around your basketball court or your pickleball court.
hold on, shall be
No, no, no.
constructed,
Look, go ahead. Yeah,
shall be constructed of wood, vinyl, aluminum, or wrought iron, and may contain wire backing. I'm not sure what wire backing is exactly.
I mean, I think.
That doesn't sound like chain link to me,
but there's no restriction on it.
but it says shall be, maybe,
I don't know, I wouldn't put too many restrictions.
shall be.
So you're saying, how do you have a fence around a basketball court that doesn't have some type of netting or any kind of court? Really, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean to be basketball, it could be pickleball.
I mean, I read this letter B as, you know, doesn't allow a chain link fence.
Right.
We were just discussing that.
We're talking about. We
No.
can, if your recommendation is to add chain link for court type structures, which makes sense. You'd make it with, and if you wanted rubber or vinyl coated, we
Right.
can add that in.
Yeah,
Why not?
I think we want to stay, I think it would be my recommendation. That's why I asked the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
commission. I don't want to push it on the commission, but I think that for aesthetic purposes and for maintaining the standards of the community, that would certainly be more attractive. I think most new construction does that anyhow, but I mean, anything's possible.
We're adding criteria to make sure we get what we want.
I'm in agreement.
I think letter D. I think it's written,
Commercial?
yeah,
Oh, no, you're two
Yeah.
D.
2D, still on the side and rear fence and pickleball.
Fencing for sporting enclosure such as tennis pickleball.
I think it's written in a fashion that just feels like it's gonna confuse people.
It shouldn't be what?
It's just, I mean, I don't like the English.
Oh,
You know, I
okay.
read it. I think what you're trying to accomplish there is
We'll have,
fencing
we'll have a
court
conversation with
closures,
Mr.
if you
Secor.
want to exceed 6 feet, you can go a maximum of 8 feet and shall be within 15. That to me is clear, like, so, you know, you're acknowledging 6 feet was the beginning of that section, letter A. If you want to exceed 6, you can go to a maximum of 8.
Well, it says shall not exceed 8 feet.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just don't like the English. I mean, maybe it makes sense to Rich.
Well, let me.
Oh,
ask you-
I think it's what he would have to defend in a court of law is why it's written that way. But we can talk to him, see if we can change the language on that one.
You know what I would do there is I would take your side yard and your side and rear yard fences, have it in one category, and then have porch fences in another category. Because I think you have two different standards there that you're looking at, you're gonna have two different issues.
Well, we don't allow ports or other accessory structures in a front yard. So if thereby place,
Yeah, of course, I
if
would.
they're thereby places inside rear yards, but if it makes sense, and it's more efficient for enforcement, by all means, and clarity, we can add that subcategory.
You don't want to have an 8-foot side yard fence, but at the same time, you probably do want to have, if you have a court or some kind of court.
Right.
You're probably gonna want more than a 6-foot fence. You know, the basket's 10 feet high, so.
Right.
And you're 15
And if you have a
feet from
tennis
the edge
court,
of
you
the
wanna be
property,
chasing
you're
balls.
not.
You should see here, be hitting tennis balls, man. You need a 25-foot fence.
So, I think, I agree with the vinyl coated. Anyone else have any strong thoughts? Vinyl coated, chain link,
There may be a more appropriate description than vinyl coated, rubber coated, chain link, I don't know, yeah. All the fence.
Something that's not galvanized metal.
Right.
right,
Something that stands out to me a little bit is the 4-foot restriction in the front yard. There's a lot of properties that have like deer fences that keep wildlife out. 4 feet would not do that.
Right.
These larger properties that have, like a gated entrance and whatnot, that may be an issue for them. I don't know if we could restrict the type of,
And what,
Material.
I think what we were trying to do is say, if you were a 4-foot, you could go ahead and put the fence in, you wouldn't have to go before the zoning hearing board. If you want an 8-foot fence, you need
get
to
a
come in
variance.
for a variance, because the concern that just so that you understand kind of where our mentality was, on a house that has 4 acres or 3 acres, and a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence in the front yard is probably not as big a deal as a house that is,
12,000 square feet.
exactly, the lot's 12,000 square foot, and this is being written for all the lots in town. And so you're trying to make it fit for all of those locations, and so you have to.
We understand there's gonna be exceptions to the rule.
Right.
What we wanna do is try to address
Streamline the aggregate.
the majority and not deal with.
And
the
if
exception.
one house has to come in for a variance or an
That's
exception,
one.
come on in.
And we've had cases where I believe the people would have come in because they've had issues where they're on a street that's a heavily trafficked street. They have a child who has autism. They didn't want it, so they wanted a gate, they wanted all of those things for security, and they didn't have a backyard. It makes total sense what they were trying to do, and the board was, I don't think they were sat here very long at all. I remember the case, I think it may have been before you, Andy. I literally think they were in before the board a total of 5 minutes. Gave their
Yeah, check the
reasons,
box,
and
we're
they
good.
checked all the boxes, and they moved along. But what we're trying to do is say, for those who just want to go with a certain look that we think is,
Easy.
without, because I don't know that we really want a lot of houses closed in by deer fence.
Right.
Right? That's a question. Do you want the front yards closed in by deer fence? I've been down roads where that's the case, and it's not
Not
very
appealing.
attractive.
Yeah, it's not.
You- And it's not appealing, so I think we might say that we would never want that, but if somebody came in and said, we want to do a wrought iron fence around the front of our house and we want to bring it in like this, and it's a really nice estate, you probably are okay, but if you're living in one of the avenues or in my neighborhood, which we don't allow fences at all, but because I'm in an HOA, but most people would say, I don't want to see a 6-foot fence when you've only got 150 foot or 50 foot across on your property line, kind of thing.
do they need a permit? What's the threshold for a permit on a fence?
All fences.
All
It's a-
fence-
But a zoning.
It's a zoning,
Yeah, you just gotta come in and say, here's
That's
what we're
correct.
doing.
all fences,
And then so walls, they'd obviously have to deal with foundation, they'd have, we're gonna do
Right.
whatever we're gonna do.
yeah.
And again, we added criteria, dimensional criteria, and provided more in my opinion, tried to provide more clarity as to what constituted retaining wall versus just a decorative landscaping wall. to me, from an enforcement perspective and a review perspective, it's gonna help me make better decisions because there's more clarity.
And so a 6-foot wall, obviously somewhere you've got that it needs to be at least 24 inches wide or.
Right.
While not stated here.
The dimensional requirements are more about height, not so, I don't know that there was so much about width.
But I think about a
Andy-
6-foot wall tipping over.
Yeah,
yeah.
Andy's gonna review that as a structure that's being built.
Yeah, once it
And-
gets over a certain height, it has to meet the building.
Right.
Location is, where we put it, where we allow it is really the zoning portion of it.
This is the fence ordinance as opposed to a wall ordinance.
Well,
It
it's-
it adopts both. I mean, it deals with both.
Well, but that's not retaining walls. That would be in building, right?
We can, well, the ordinance, the heading of the ordinance references section 104, fences, walls, hedges, and driveway. So it tries to incorporate all of those items.
And part of the idea was that if, let's say on a larger piece of property, that somebody wanted to come in and have a wall instead of a fence, we're not precluding that from happening. It's basically the same, we're looking at this wall as the same structure. We're not talking necessarily about a, as Andy mentioned, a retaining wall. We're talking specifically about a wall that's being used as a barrier.
Okay, but what if the person has a sloped property going to the front?
Then it becomes a retaining.
Right, and it's a retaining wall. You gotta have restrictions on, it has to be weep
But that's
holes. and-
driven by the building.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're
No,
not
I
missing
understand.
anything.
Yeah.
And the regulations about grading, about
Right.
stability and.
I mean, and that may even be, they may even have to go through steep slope disturbance
Right.
depending on with what you just said.
Right.
So there, a lot of things could be involved.
And we have an issue with that going on right now. So I mean, here again, is try to solve these problems to make it more clear.
We don't want anything to slip through the cracks.
That's right.
Andy, is there a certain dimension that a mailbox becomes a driveway pillar, like a?
A mailbox? No, I don't think that we've added any kind of definition in that. But I have seen driveway pillars act as a place for a mailbox. I have seen that, yeah.
What do you want from us?
What we'd like is your recommendation to move it on to the Board of Supervisors with all of your recommendations to be passed on with it.
With our comments.
Yeah.
Your comments.
Comments. We're not gonna tell them how to write an ordinance, but we certainly.
Well, but if
You're
they're your
recommending body.
if you're a recommending body, so like, for example, if you wanna, you're suggesting that we allow chain links around the courts,
Yeah,
but that you want them to be coded.
yes.
That's a recommendation
Yeah.
that you're making. That's very clear. I tried to catch the different things. We talked about
Special exception for. the width
special
of the
exception. Those,
posts.
I think those things are important. And then what we'll do two things. One is we'll take your recommendations, we'll run them by Rich and determine whether that would be whether we would have to re-advertise the ordinance with those changes. And if we do, we would probably present it to the board, say, here's what they are. If you're wanting to do that, we'll re-advertise. We'll go through that process. I think it's just a matter then of making the change that you all put in, and then they would vote on it. If not, we will advertise it as it is. And with those potential changes, and then they could possibly pass it the night that they did.
Yeah, the other thing we're still waiting on is obviously the county comments as well.
Yeah.
So you'll see that included, we did forward it to the county. They had their meeting, I believe it was on the 18th, but I'm not aware that we got their recommendation back
Mhm.
in written format.
I got a little lost on your re-advertising. Is there a threshold of change you're getting?
It has to be substantive.
If
change.
it's considered a substantive change,
So like my comment about you should be allowed 2 driveway pillars per driveway entrance.
and he may say that's not, because
So Rich is gonna make
Rich
he's
will
gonna
make
make a
it
call.
determined, we're gonna let him make that call. I'm not making that call. I don't think Andy wants to make that call. But he may say, that's enough of a change that, yes, we need to go back out. Or he may look at it and say, we said 2 driveway pillars. We're assuming that's for each driveway. It's not a big deal.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that this commission make the recommendation that we, I guess, make the suggestion that the board move forward with the proposed fence wall hedges and driveway pillars ordinance with giving consideration to the recommendations that we discussed and presented here today.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Good. Thank you very much.
We don't have anybody out there, sitting out there, right?
No,
I thought at one point.
There was someone.
Okay,
We
I
had
just wanted to
someone.
make sure.
We
that-
lost them.
I just wanted to make sure that you, if you needed to allow for public comment.
well, when he asked for public comment,
It's noted that there is no public to make public comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that.
That's official.
do we
Um,
have to do anything else?
and everything else is pending and was pushed forward.
We're gonna be very busy in October, and November.
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
Yeah, if all of these items come due at the same time, you're in for a long night.
what's our October meeting? Is it, obviously, I guess it's the 23rd. We're looking at the Village of Four Seasons. Checking.
And then the November meeting is Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Can we move that?
Yeah, I will be out of town.
Let's wait to see if we get, if those extensions aren't further extended.
Okay.
Fair.
The October is on the 23rd, right?
Yes.
Thursday, 23rd.
But I put it out there, Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Always been an issue.
Yeah.
It's when we always move it because I don't know where else to move it to.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, yeah.
If the challenge is the Thursday before that, we have a meeting
You
to,
usually have the super, well, no.
and then there's usually a supervisor's meeting or municipal authority meeting that same week.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Appreciate you guys moving that forward.
Yes, thank you.
That'll help.